Good morning, our people. Welcome to the special program that we have today. We are definitely honored to have your presence. As usual, please help us to share, subscribe, all those fancy things that we must do to get this message across. As you can see on our screen, we have plenty of special guests. We are very much honored to have them in our presence, and they will be here to reiterate some of the issues that we've been discussing on this platform. So, welcome. Our topic today, as you can see, is Milestone Report and Next Steps Towards Decommissioning. Today is an third anniversary for NINAS constitutional force majeure. So, like we keep telling you guys on this show, you've been given a Christmas present. It's 3 years old, and you still yet to open up your present. Anyway, let me not take off. I get too excited at times. My name is Monachim Saga Opala. I am here in Houston, Texas, and I will have my beautiful sister introduce herself.
Thank you very much. My name is Epi. We welcome all our viewers all over Nigeria and outside Nigeria. We say all over the world, because we know our people have been forced to, economic migration. Our people are all over the world, and friends, family, everywhere you are, you're welcome to this wonderful event. Please continue to help us to share, like, subscribe. Like my sister has said, it's important that we get this out to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. So for some reason, I don't know if I need to restart this. It looks like they disconnected the link. Oh, okay. Somebody came on. It says 0 for the past 5 minutes. All right. So
Okay.
no, are you able to see it? Because I can't see it on mine. Are you able to see it?
Anyone behind or see the people here?
Are you able to see the show on social media?
Confirm.
Can you log in real quick just to see? I have not activated it on my side.
Yes, it's already on Facebook.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. So we're just going to take a few minutes to sort of share because this show is for our people. So we don't want to rush into speaking without making sure that the people that needs to be alerted are alerted. So let's just take a few minutes to share real quick and send this out to our friends and foes, and then we'll start. All right. I think we can keep on the show so that we can keep our time. So thank you so much for joining us once again. Like I mentioned earlier, today is the third anniversary of NINA's Constitutional Force Majeure. So today on our agenda, we are going to have an opening statement. We are going to have introduction of NINA's team and a special guest. And then on the third part, we'll have presentation of the statement by Mr. Tony Nadi. We'll have opportunity to ask questions. And then we'll have a short speech by Dr. Israel Davidson Norom, who is a former presidential aspirant, ADC platform. He's going to be our special guest and observer today. And then lastly, we'll have a brief remarks and exhortation by each member of the NINAS team. So let me start off by having the status report on the implementation of the constitutional force majeure. So, Brother Tony.
Sorry, before that, please, Dafe, can you introduce the NINAS team?
Good evening once again. Here with us today is the NINAS spokesperson, Mr. Tono Nadi. Professor is from the Lower Niger Congress block. Then we have Professor Bamiyi from the Middle Belt block. We have Otumba Folashade Olukoya from the Oduduwa block, and my humble self from the Niger Delta block. Dr. Israel Davison is from the Lower Niger block. That's all I can see for now. Simeon Ekwi is from the Lower Niger Congress block, and the Justice for All Muna is also from the Lower Niger Congress block. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just for those that are new to NINA's arrangements, when you hear block, the whole alliance was grouped into 3 blocks. You have the Southwest block, you have the Middle Belt block, and you have the Lower Niger block. And it's just for us to organize ourselves and know where we belong. We are over 350 ethnic nationalities in the southern and middle belt part of Nigeria. So for ease of organization and to help us to have proper conversation amongst ourselves, we decided to put ourselves in blocks. And that's what that is. So for those that are hearing blocks for the first time, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So we will go back to, actually, let me pull up this PowerPoint so that our viewers can follow as we go. The next thing on our agenda is the status report on the implementation of constitutional force majeure. So that will be handled by Barrister Tony Nadi. So if you can please take over.
Mr. Tony, are you here? Yes. I think he's trying to get, because we'll see expecting like 2 more people in the panel. So he's probably trying to get them on board. So I can see he's muted. Okay. He's here.
Yes, am I coming through now?
Yes, you're coming through, though we can't see you.
Yes, to keep the network stable,
Okay.
we probably will do without the camera most of the program.
Okay, that works. That works.
So it's here I am. And,
okay.
Yes, but just to keep the network stable is more important than
yes.
Okay, so I go off.
Yeah, go off, please. Thank you.
Yes. And so we can start now, isn't it?
Yes, carry on, please.
Right. Dear compatriots, ladies and gentlemen of the press, I welcome you on behalf of the Board of Conveners of the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS. We invited you here today to share with you the progress being made with the implementation of the constitutional force majeure declared December 16, 2020, and the next steps in the implementation process as a part of our stock taking at the third anniversary of the constitutional force majeure. We wish, therefore, to state as follows. You will recall that on the 16th day of December in 2020, NINAS activated a joint multi-regional constitutional force majeure by which it declared a union dispute, issuing a 90-day notice of grave constitutional dispute to the government of the Federation of Nigeria and presenting a 5-point proposition by which those grievances could be addressed, including the suspension of further national elections under the 1999 Constitution and the initiation of an immediate transitional arrangement to undertake the long overdue constitutional reconstruction of unitary Nigeria. You will recall that at the expiration of the 90-day period of notice, NINAS, by a press conference addressed in Ibadan, March 17, 2021, announced a 30-day period of consultations being extended to the governments and elected officials from the states of the Federation of Nigeria since the 90-day notice of December 16, 2020 was directed at the federal government of Nigeria, representing the Federation of Nigeria. 3, upon the expiration of the 30-day period, NINAS, by another World Press Conference in Lagos, declared a 120-day period of consultations with the peoples and ethnic nationalities of Nigeria, sundry interests and stakeholder community in the international circuit, including the United Nations Security Council and the United Nations Trusteeship Council, as well as the governments of the United States, the European Union, China, Russia, and a few others. They were formally communicated. 4, upon the completion of these consultations, which ran concurrently with enlightenment of the populace and stakeholders, NINAS intensified engagement with groups which were mobilizing towards it.
Sister Muna, you're mute. Okay.
All right. So it looks like you
Which
said,
all pushed rambunctiously towards elections under a unitary constitution that guaranteed the dysfunctions and failures of Nigeria, including serial election malfeasances. Young people were hoodwinked by those who knew better into believing that leadership was the major problem of Nigeria. And so, in that belief, they rallied massively behind the candidates they believed would offer a great leadership that would turn Nigeria into a great country. Their movement became known as Obedient Movement, with candidate Peter Obi as their battle axe for rescuing Nigeria from the demons they could see. The noise of elections drowned the strident voice of NINAS, which kept pointing at the dangers that were encircling Nigeria and Nigerians from all sides. Number 5, February 2023 came and voting took place. Everything that could go wrong went wrong with the results. INEC and the judiciary completed the circuit
Viewers, network.
Yes.
That's what we go through in that land of whatever anybody wants to put in. So please, let's be patient.
Forest of 1,000 demons.
So let's be patient, please. It will come back.
We have to remind him where he stopped, though, because it's been over almost a minute.
Yes.
So he can go back.
And we're going to publish this also for press, members of media. It will be published, the entire statement. Thank you.
All right. So I'm also maybe asking that he send us a copy of this so that maybe Daffy will take over if he, because we don't know how long this disconnection is going to be. This happened the last time we tried to do this, something similar. They literally shut down the guy's phone, shut down his internet, and we weren't able to get him to speak. So we know that there's definitely demon is not resting. So we need to. Daffy, are you able to get that information from him?
So he's coming. I just informed him, and he said we should give him like a minute or two.
Okay. So do you have anything to add while we're waiting?
And viewers, yes, viewers, please continue to share, like, and subscribe. We know our people are watching on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Continue to share because people need to hear. And don't worry, we're going to break it down eventually. It's just that officially the statement has to be read because it's a press conference. So sorry that the network is doing what it's doing. Kind of, we got used to it. We are not, it's just when we start, whatever happens, because you're not sure. Unlike where we live, you know that if you have this band, this is what you're going to get. So you're kind of sure of what it will be. But in Nigeria, I don't know. It's what when people say, Aba Eperechi. That means as you go, you're saying, okay, God, help us. Into your hands we commit. We commit the journey.
Sister Kwi, please let me introduce Mark Olise. Mark Olise is in the house too.
Okay, please.
He's from the Lower Niger block.
Go
Mark
ahead,
Olise,
please.
you're welcome.
Good evening, sister. Good evening, everybody.
Yes.
Good evening. So, like I was saying,
Go ahead, yes.
Yeah, anything you want to do, whether you want to travel, you commit your soul into the hand of God. Project, you want to do business, God, you are not sure of anything. It's unstable. It is what it is. You can't predict, you can't work out anything. You just finish making your plan, then you just hope. It's in Nigeria, they will say we hope. When you're going to sleep, you hope you wake up. And
Hope
that's why
hoping against hope.
And that's why you see them in church always praying as if God is deaf and dumb. But he's not deaf and dumb. There are many nations that don't even pray, yet things are moving forward. That's what we're saying. We, the indigenous peoples.
You know, we read our own Bible upside down. Faith without works is dead. But we have faith and we try not to do any work at all. So, I mean, and our pastors are not helping issues too.
That's why the owners of the land are saying this has to stop. Because we have traveled all over the world and we have seen how things work in places. We have seen that human beings are capable of doing wonders. Even without prayer. That on their own, human beings can sit down and use their brain to do things.
But prayer is important. Faith and works. The one for Nigeria is that we have faith, but we have no works.
And it shouldn't be that way. So we want to be able to put things in place, put structures in place. We are tired of lamentation. No problem is solved by lamenting. You lament from morning till evening. No. So please, for those that are stumbling this video for the first time, NINAS, Nigerian Indigenous Alliance, Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS. Those are saying, oh, what's the meaning of NINAS? Because very soon NINAS will be an in-house statement. So NINAS is Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination. So he's back. He's got a text, sent us a text now that he's back. Please, Sister Mona, go ahead.
Okay.
Right.
So you stopped at the.
I can't remember where I stopped.
Yes, he's talking about INEC. Something about INEC.
Okay. So let me take number 5.
Item 5. Item 5.
I begin with item 5 again.
Okay, item 5. Okay, thank you.
Number 5. February 2023 came and voting took place. Everything that could go wrong went wrong with results. INEC and the judiciary completed the circuit, and Nigeria went into a free fall as feared by NINAS, but as guaranteed by the Unitary Constitution of Nigeria, which was directly responsible for everything that went wrong with the elections. The rest, as they say, is history. Almost instantly, from fuel price hikes to free fall of Naira to astronomical rise in cost of living, particularly foodstuffs, lamentations and disillusionment led to a more noticeable exodus of young people to foreign lands, fleeing from the country that feeds on their blood. NINA's verdict on the entire electoral charade, especially the defiance of the already disputed Constitution of Nigeria by both INEC and the judiciary in order to produce the preconceived outcomes from the election, was that Nigeria had landed itself in an interregnum in which there is a government in power, but which lacked legitimacy. Number 6, the worst outcome of the 2023 elections is that it has now crystallized as a state capture in which all arms of government and the institutions of state have openly capitulated to the rampage and onslaught of the agents of the present state capture, complete with a massive looting of whatever is left of Nigeria, even as foreign loans are recklessly contracted for consumption purposes. Young people began to shout, "Revolution, revolution," all over the place, looking longingly at the recent people's revolt across the West African sub-region. Number 7, apparently frightened by the rapid descent of Nigeria towards anarchy, more voices began to emerge from high places in support of the immediate constitutional renegotiation, reconfiguration, and reconstruction. They called it all kinds of names, and those who are now speaking up include former President Olusegun Obasanjo, former Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Emeka Anyoko, with the likes of Professor Patu Tomi and Kingsley Moghalu, who all plunged into elections across the last 3 electoral cycles, particularly the one of 2023. Everyone now agrees that the unworkable unitary constitution of Nigeria is the source of practically all the problems of Nigeria, including insecurity, corruption, infrastructural decay, mass poverty, and general hopelessness pervading the land. The question on every lip now is, how exactly do we get rid of the 1999 Constitution? How do we extricate ourselves from the bondage we have found ourselves in? Where does Nigeria go from here? Without any hesitation, NINAS will ask all those who are asking these questions, in quote, is there anyone or group in Nigeria, including the government and the political parties, that has a better proposition for addressing the anomalous constitutional arrangements of Nigeria than NINAS, which since December 2020 placed on the table a comprehensive and practical plan for the immediate undertaking of the constitutional reconstruction of Nigeria, following a 20-year painstaking process that began right from the 1999 imposition of the unitary constitution that has brought Nigeria to its knees. End of quote. I repeat that. NINAS is asking all of those who are saying, how do we terminate the 1999 constitution? How do we bring out ourselves? I quote, NINAS is asking, is there any one or group in Nigeria, including the government of Nigeria and the political parties, that has a better proposition for addressing the anomalous constitutional arrangement of Nigeria than NINAS, which since December 2020 placed on the table a comprehensive practical plan for the immediate undertaking of the constitutional reconstruction of Nigeria, following a 20-year painstaking process that began right from the 1999 imposition of the unitary constitution that has brought Nigeria to its knees. Without being immodest, we have no doubt that the answer to that question is a resounding no. NINAS is saying that we can say for certain that there is no group, not the government, not the political parties, not any one of the groups that are going about, talking to the atmosphere, restructuring. None has a plan that can be examined, like the constitutional force majeure proclamation that was not only written, it was advertised, formally, unedited, and sent around the world for what we are proposing for the Nigeria that is about to collapse on everybody. And so we say again that there's no alternatives that have been placed on the table for us to interrogate and compare with what NINAS has put on the table. It is on the basis of this reality, therefore, that NINAS will request all stakeholders, including the government of Nigeria, political parties, statesmen, and other stakeholders, to find the courage to embrace these propositions of NINAS as the last available peaceful and orderly mechanism for taking Nigeria to immediate union reconstruction, which offers the existing governance structures and accommodation by way of a transitioning, as the alternative will most likely be disorderly and most likely violent on an unprecedented scale. Number 8, NINAS observes with concern that the government of the day seems determined to sidetrack the NINAS route to redemption by groping about in the dark in search of other solutions that will retain this stranglehold on the sovereignty of the constituent components of Nigeria, restored by the NINAS two-stage proposition contained in the NINAS 5-point proposition. The government and the agents of the system have gone from one form of amorphous restructuring suggestion to lame recourse to the report of the 2014 Political Reform Conference, to suggestions about a return to the 1963 constitutional arrangements, to the latest dubious suggestion by Olisa Abakoba at the December 14, 2023 Abuja colloquium, whereby the National Assembly of Nigeria withdraw some imaginary powers from Section 14, Section 4.1 of the fraudulent 1999 Constitution to replace the constitution wholesale without any recourse to the sovereign constituent components of Nigeria. This is an invitation to a bigger fraud than the one of 1999 initiated by Absalom Abaka, and it is treasonous. It is treasonous. The common strand with all these options, that is whether they were talking restructuring that they can't define, or they are talking, the return to 2014 conference report, or they are talking about return to 1963. The common strand with all those options is that constitutional amendment is the mechanism they target, and the National Assembly will be the venue for undertaking the constitutional reconstruction. This is what NINAS rejects, as it holds down the sovereignty of the people of Nigeria, detained since the colonial era to date. This is the jinx NINAS proposition has broken. Number 9, NINAS is pleased to inform the public that the 1999 Constitution has been delegitimized. Where do we go from there? Next step is the commencement of the decommissioning. It has already been activated informally, but we are now bringing it to the notice of the public that no matter what anybody thinks, no matter what anybody says, whether they're in government or they're in political party, wherever they are, the basis of the Union of Nigeria being that Constitution of 1999 that is a fraud is now delegitimized. That's why you hear it all over the place, people saying it must change. Those things didn't fall from the sky. They came from the hard work, the detailed and painstaking work that NINAS had managed to do across the length and breadth of Nigeria and across the decision-making places of the world. And so we now step formally at this 3rd anniversary of the 2020 Constitutional Force Majeure activation. We step formally into the decommissioning process. What does this mean? NINAS will, in this phase, be inviting all of those who now agree that the Constitution of Nigeria 1999, that has been responsible for Nigeria's woes and the misery of Nigerians, must now give way for something else that will have to be negotiated on account of the sovereignties that are conscripted into Nigeria and on account of their inalienable right to self-determination. That is what will be happening in this phase. And so we are pleased to announce further that in the first quarter of 2024, NINAS will be making what the church people will call an altar call to separate those who agree that the Union of Nigeria can no longer continue on a constitution of master-servant, a constitution of death, a constitution of unitarism and centralized control, from those who cling onto that constitution and swear to defend and uphold it and vote at elections in it and just generally refuse to have any discussion. Those who say it is indissoluble for the Union, those who say it is non-negotiable, that constitution. And so it is in the first quarter of 2024 that a formal mechanism will be rolled out to separate, because we know that we are now a majority, from the highest of places, if you listen well, to the medium places, again, if you listen, but more from the grassroots. Everybody is fed up with everything, and they now want a departure from that Nigeria that is feeding on their blood. And so that altar call will be to separate those who want to hold hands with the enemy to keep us down in bondage and those who want liberation. If we do what we ought to do, which begins even now, let those who did not know that the prison gate has been compromised, that is what that delegitimization means. Let the information of NINAS that we can find all over the place at the touch of the button on our phones, the website that is www.ninasvoice.org, the YouTube channel that is NINAS Voice, where we have more than 320 recorded broadcasts that deal with these issues, that the people need to know whatever it is they want from Nigeria, whether they want outright exit from the union, that's the one they call independence, or they want autonomy for their region, or they want some balanced federation or confederation. It is that constitution that stands their way. And therefore, in this first quarter, all of those who want something different from what they've lived with across the last 50 to 55 years since unitary arrangements got imposed, they will be having a facility to step forward. In the meantime, what NINAS requests everybody to do as their contribution to this redemption that is very much within our grip, within our reach, is to join in the mass dissemination of the information on this subject. Many people do not know, even the ones with education, how much more the ones with less education in the rural areas. It is in the fast dissemination of this information that we can very quickly reach the critical mass that will then be able to enforce the joint jailbreak. NINAS will assure everybody that in all of what has to be done to complete what is left, to free ourselves from this bondage, nobody can make out an offense from anything being done. Once it's being done within the guidelines we shall issue. And therefore, knowledge becomes central for people to understand that what is being done has to be done in a certain way. For those who will be asking, oh, we don't have any guns, again, NINAS is able to tell them that it is the Constitution 1999, the Unitary Constitution of Nigeria, that took away the right from them to defend themselves, the ones being slaughtered recklessly in the Middle Belt. For those who want their resources back, it is that constitution that took their assets. For the young people that want their country back, they say we will take our country back. It is the 1999 constitution, the fraud of 1999, that took your country from you, that took your sovereignty from you. And so we will just say that we have defeated that monster. We have compromised the prison gate where we have been kept all this while, and we are well able, if sufficient numbers of us are awakened to the consciousness of the need to make our way to that gate and leave that prison. For those in government, this might be the last call for embracing this option that accommodates existing governance structure. The transition, like we saw in South Africa, retains the governance structures. We have no quarrel with those in government house, even those who rigged the election. That's not our concern. Our concern is the constitution by which anybody will have governed, including if the right people were declared winners. If they govern with that constitution, our situation will not change. And so we invite you to put aside whatever you are thinking. We have no quarrel with you, to dismount from your high horse of thinking that the sovereignty of the people now resides with people in government, which is the heresy that Olisa Bakoba had gone to preach in Abuja, in the presence of the Bola Tinubu, who is president from the last election, and the presence of Godswill Akpabio, who happened to be the celebrant, but more importantly, the president of the Senate. The two men spoke in some kind of endorsement of that nefarious suggestion by Olisa Bakoba. We pray they don't go even one step near that route, because it will be treated as a criminal venture between them to complete the state capture that has started already, because then they will be able to replace the constitution wholesale without reference to anybody other than the few that might be in the room. That's the import of what Olisa Bakoba had suggested to them, and they rejoice as if they found some Appian way to escape from the need to get the owners of the sovereignties of Nigeria around a table in a process that can lock out confusion and disorder. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your actions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tony Nadi. This statement will be available to the public and to press, so that those that missed any part of it will have the complete statement and be able to follow it. We'll go to the next section, which is short interview with NINAS team. The spokesperson, Mr. Tony Nadi, are you ready to take our questions?
Sure, let's go.
Okay. So with the successful delegitimization of the 1999 Constitution and the frantic debates in Nigeria about what to do in remediation of Nigeria's collapsing and dysfunctional system, can you please explain to the public the implications of the delegitimization for the efforts of Nigeria's constituent ethnic nations to reclaim their sovereignty and self-determination in an organized manner towards union reconfiguration?
Yeah, thank you. Very quickly, the delegitimization simply means that that constitution has ceased to have any kind of legitimacy. That constitution has ceased to be basis of union. The pretense that we have agreed to be in union and we have made out this constitution is at an end. And that's why the shout and song is all over the place that the constitution is the problem. And so what it means in real terms, if you go to that preamble to that constitution, it means that we have been able to establish, NINAS have been able to establish beyond debate. There's nobody in government that can come to any podium to say anything to the contrary. NINAS have been able to establish by this constitutional force majeure that we, the people of the federal, Nigeria, whatever is not a federation, but that we never made any constitution. We never agreed on any constitution. We never made or enacted or approved in any way any constitution. And the implication of that is that we really have no union. It's only the goodwill that has been generated across time that is still holding things in place. those who are choking in this place, those whose assets have been detained from them, those who are being killed because they can't touch gun, those whose infrastructure have been run down deliberately, those who have been excluded by quota system and all sorts of things they call federal character. You take my assets and you award it to your own, like Dangote, that is now to refine all the crude oil in Nigeria for all of us, because you lock down those things on the exclusive list. Everything that is built on that constitution is now up for renegotiation. And if no meeting is called, if no meeting holds to settle the matter, we have arrived at that point where those who can organize themselves, and don't kid yourself that nobody is organizing or going to organize, those who can organize themselves are going to take unilateral actions. And that was why we put it in the force majeure proclamation, that if after all of what we're going to do to call everybody into that peaceful solution, they still refuse, we said that we will then reconsider our allegiance to that constitution. Of course, we already said we were tolerating it for the sake of avoiding anarchy, not because we made it, but we say we will manage it to the point where we get to the table of discussion. But if those who are sitting over our heads in Abuja and sucking our blood refuse to come to be part of that process, and they think they can stay the way they've been all the while, then unilateral actions are loading. That you don't need a soothsayer to tell you, because those who have been tormented are not going to fold their arms. What NINAS has done is to remove the barricades. Anybody can, any group of persons can stand up now and leave that prison compound. That's what it means. There's no life left in that constitution.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So today is the 3rd anniversary of the NINAS Constitutional Force Majeure, held on December 16th, 2020. Tell me, Mr. Tony Nadi, how would you assess the implementation of the Constitutional Force Majeure? Were you able to attain the objectives? Yes. Please, if you're not talking, can you mute your phone? I can hear sound in the background, like kind of noise of like water. Or is it fan? Okay. Sorry, Mr. Tony Nadi, did you hear the question? Viewers, please continue to hit the like button so that we can counteract the algorithm that they're using to block some of these videos. So then share, like, subscribe. Get this information to your groups. Every group that needs self-determination, every group that wants to see things done differently in that geographical space they called Nigeria. Please share to your groups, your church, your pastors, your religious leaders, those that keep praying when we should take action, those that dishonest, your dishonest politicians that are sharing the national cake while their own people are dying, scattering all over the world, dying in Mediterranean Sea, different deserts, with our children everywhere, the children that we labored in the labor room to bring forth. They die like flies everywhere, Black people dying. We are not happy. We are not happy at all, because we know that we are able to give our children a better life. Share this video, share everything to everyone, because it's time for us to take action. We have prayed enough. It's time for us to do the right thing. And you see that we talk about doing the right thing, because there is a right thing to be done. You're not going to do it anyhow. If you do it anyhow, Nigerian will say, you do anyhow, you see anyhow. So we don't want our children to see anyhow. We want to move according to the process, internationally accepted process, so that we can get the result that others got. They did it in South Africa. Chile in 2020 brought down the military constitution to introduce democratic constitution. It has been done all over the world. So what we are requesting for is not new. Sorry, is Mr. Tony still there?
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay, so let me repeat the question so that I can take it from there. Thank you.
Right.
So today is the 3rd anniversary of the NINAS Constitutional Force Majeure held on December 16, 2020. Please, how would you assess the implementation of the Constitutional Force Majeure? Were you able to attain the objectives? Thank you.
Spectacular success. Except for those who have not read the Force Majeure proclamation, you will see at once, if you do read, that the objective was to roll out a framework, a strategy that will lock in terms of time when this business must be done. Because since after Aburi, it was this same discussion that went to Aburi. How do we live together? What are the terms of our union? Are we still in union? If yes, what are the terms? That was what they went to discuss in Aburi. They agreed, came back. One side abandoned the agreement and began to shoot at the other people, killing 5 million people to keep the union by force. And so, from that time in 1967, the NINAS Constitutional Force Majeure became the first time that everybody was forced to begin to consider, was forced to realize that they can no longer keep things by force, because the constitution by which they kept things by force was what we targeted. Since it is our signature that gives life to that constitution, we only needed to wake up enough people to realize that if we say, we only need to say, Nigeria was created by proclamation in 1914 of one person sitting in one corner of London. How much more millions of us saying that you put our signature on a document we knew nothing about? No, it cannot remain basis of Nigeria. It cannot remain basis of any union with anybody we don't want in our space. Our sovereignty is inalienable. And so that intervention in which we say, leave elections, let's go and solve the problem. As item 3, when you look at the 5-point proposition, you will see that item number 1 has already been carried if we're talking about resolutions that are to be passed. Because there's hardly anybody that can stand on any podium in any part of Nigeria today to say that the constitution is not the problem. What was our item 1? That the constitution of Nigeria is the basis of the grievances that are all over the place, and that we must address it now. Item 2, that constitution would therefore have to be decommissioned. Is there anybody still arguing that constitution we have now is the best? No. So we have already succeeded in creating that consciousness that was not there before, because people thought it was spiritual problem that was worrying Nigeria. Others thought it was leadership. If we got a straight man, it will be good. Others say corruption. Remove corruption, everything will be. Whereas it is that constitution that is responsible for everything we lament, whether it's bad leadership or corruption or infrastructural failure or name it, security that is not there. Is that constitution in all of the 68 items on the exclusive list? The petroleum we do not have, because refineries are on the exclusive list. That's the only reason there's no petrol anywhere for a country that has 3 million barrels of crude oil. And we raised 10 points of interrogation, which we put in the hands of the media. We actually published it in Guardian newspaper on the 26th of September in the year leading to the election, so that they can interrogate the candidates in the election, going to election under that constitution, to say, what is your answer to the agitations across the land? Item 1, why are people saying they don't want to belong to Nigeria anymore? Because we have not agreed to be in union and we have been oppressed in what was imposed. We had another item of why is corruption, so rife in the land. The constitution creates corruption and, protects the beneficiaries of corruption in black and white. The spare key of the treasury is in the hands of the heads of the executive branch, and they have immunity. So they are not accountable to you for all the contents of the treasury. You come to the question of infrastructure, the exclusive list. You come to the question of impunity. You see the immunity provisions in Section 6 and the other one in Section 308. Everything that anybody can say he finds wrong with Nigeria, we were able to pinpoint where they're coming from, which the people did not know before. Election that is rigged is because elections are on the exclusive list, that some group of people will sit in Abuja and be the one to process every House member, including State Assembly members, Senate members, House of Reps, governors, President. Is the PVC they give to you, you get. You won't get any other one. Is the beavers they send to you, you will use. You won't get another one. Is the collation they do, no matter how many votes you get, is the collation they do that will become the result. You go to court to say, oh, I got more votes. It's what the judges say they saw that will become the outcome. And so there's no other thing responsible for what happened. Everything that happened wrong with the election was coming from the fact that that constitution has elections on the exclusive list. There's no number of amendments or electoral reform. We saw the charlatans that gathered in Abuja the other day talking about electoral reform with a constitution that guarantees what they are running away from. They don't want to talk about that. Labor Union doesn't want to talk about the constitution that locked down the potential, the capacity for electricity, the capacity for petroleum refining, the capacity for infrastructure, all the things that hold the commanding heights for creation of wealth. And so it is in this force majeure that it has become clear to those who have the discipline to pay attention that this is what the problem is. Anybody else, no matter how you parade yourself in terms of what you know, whether you were president of Nigeria for 50 years, or you were senator for 100 years, or you were professor of law, if you do not know that these are the things, you are illiterate, ignorant, and we could say dishonest, because the information has been there. And so it has achieved its main objective of delegitimizing that constitution, especially for the fact that it is our signature which we did not append that gives life to the document. I tell you, it's just a matter of when can the people who are in this trouble make up their mind to leave that prison compound? Before we begin to blame them, have we reached them? The answer cannot be a big yes, because they distracted themselves with all kinds of things. First, it was the Odua Republic and the Biafra Republic. Nonsense talk against the backdrop of what the problem truly is. You want to be liberated from a monster that's occupying your space, and you have a group that have locked in on that monster, because that constitution is the life of that monster. You stand apart from it, causing confusion and violence. Then the other one jumps out. Oh, I want to be president. I'm a good man. I'm going to buy 10 naira worth of thing with 2 naira. That's the P2B. How does that settle the question of we have not agreed to be in union with these people who are killing us? How does that settle the question of 36 states that make me minority forever? How does that settle the question of the 68 items on the exclusive list, which you, President, cannot touch? And so my hands are tied, my legs are tied, I'm blindfolded by the constitution you swear to defend and uphold. It is criminal. It is criminal. And so that is what the constitutional force majeure has been able to do, to strip that monster of all its powers. We have plucked the teeth of that monster. They say you cannot plunder the house of a strong man except you first bind him. Nigeria, particularly unitary Nigeria, is that strong man that is beating down the Yoruba, beating down the Ijo, beating down the Berom, beating down the thief, and holding on to their assets. NINAS has been able to tie down that strong man. It does not even say, Nigeria, nobody can come in the name of Nigeria to talk to us. find out why they are not able to talk to us. Because we first engaged them. That was why Buhari could say nothing. Because if he attempted to say anything, the whole country will collapse on his head. That is why Tinubu will say nothing. He came from our fold and went to gamble. Look at where that gamble has landed now. That is why Absalom Abaka, you saw when we challenged him, you saw what he said. Have you seen him in public since that time? Who amongst them is going to come to say anything? Because they are standing on a podium that is rickety, on a podium will pull down if they refuse to come down by themselves. We are not begging them. The sovereignty belongs to the owners of the lands they call Nigeria. And the only reason those lands are still called Nigeria right now, is because that constitution, which those people did not make, say that it is now Nigeria and is non-negotiable, indissoluble, indivisible. Who told you? And Olisa Bakoba actually cited that in the heresy he professed 2 days ago, that constitution say is indissoluble. We succeeded spectacularly. The only thing remaining is to pass that information to sufficient numbers of people, and we'll begin to put dates on when things must happen. The door will remain open for transitioning. But those who are refusing to come while they can come, sorry for them if it's too late. We won't be able to help them if the mob gets at them before they come.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tony. Our people, our viewers, the people of Nigeria, the peoples of Nigeria, those at home, those in diaspora, and even Africans, because if Nigerians are held down, the entire black race is down. So this is important. So we have, if you are not taking anything out of this meeting, understand that the 1999 Constitution is the evil tap that is bringing out that evil water, and it needs to be shut down. Not amended, not to turn the nozzle to the other side, no, down. So the work is now for us. It says information. This is really, in this, all this thing happening to us, when the good book says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. This is really where it comes out, and we see that, oh, our people are perishing because they are not aware that they have been set free. So question 3, thank you so much, Mr. Tony. So following successful, Sister Mona, question 3, please. Following the successful delegitimization of the 1999 constitutional order, because when we talk about constitution, people think it's just the book. Is the entire arrangement that ties you down as an indigenous person. So following the successful delegitimization of this book of Lucifer, this constitutional arrangement, this evil constitutional order, we understand that we are now moving into the decommissioning phase. Tell us, please, what this phase entails. What are the next steps for advancing this decommissioning process? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. What it entails is that those who were previously held bound, anything you say is treason. Anything you do is treason. And they can shoot at sight because you went flying flag some corner, or doing some kind of crazy thing, or blowing some little pipeline. They're watching you from the sky. They just come down, call you any name. That constitution enables them, criminalize you. For those who have been asking, oh, why have they not arrested the people doing all this kind of... There's no revolution there's no coup worse than toppling the constitution that creates a country, that holds a country together. There's no revolution deeper than toppling the arrangement by which you are held in bondage for decades and centuries. South African blacks were in it for 80 years, from 1910 when apartheid was introduced or imposed to 1990 when they pushed back. Why were they able to push back? Because they eventually found out that it wasn't the white man passing by. that took their everything. It was the apartheid constitution. Is it by accident that Oliver Tambo was a lawyer, joined by his younger friend, Nelson Mandela? Both of them lawyers, very sound for the purpose. And then they began to explain to the people who were fighting apartheid long before they came. They began to explain to those people that it was the apartheid constitution that seized their sovereignty, their land, their rights, their life. And they narrowed down to that, to the point where the government was overwhelmed in 1990. It is that thing that they did to bring Frederick de Klerk to that conclusion in 1990 that we can't sustain this any further. That is what our people are required to do now. That delegitimization has brought us to where we can now step forward and begin the decommissioning. Nobody is going to ask you if you do what NINAS asks you to do and not add your own, because that's where the problem comes. Some of them will still carry their native doctor's bag of their own former plan. They say, government can no longer do anything. Let's go. Then they will pull out a flag of a country they cannot put boundaries to. That's where the problem will be. If you do what we ask you to do, that decommissioning phase entails getting people who want this freedom from this bondage, people who want fresh constitutional arrangements dictated by their inalienable self-determination rights, to now stand up to be seen, to be counted. And it begins with everybody joining from where they are to invite other people to enlighten themselves with information that's abundantly available, inviting their own people wherever they can find them. The information is available throughout the world, whether you are in Australia, or you are in Abraka, or you are in California, or you are in Stuttgart. All of us have equal access to this information because it's on the internet, it's on the website, it's on YouTube, global. And so that decommissioning comes to where a larger number of people from what we currently have, those who went to do obedient, those who want to do a milocon. Is there any one of them that can buy petrol at any price less than what I buy? Is there any one of them that can exchange the naira for dollar, anything different from what I'm forced to do? No. So the hunger and the suffering will discipline them into looking for a way to save themselves from death, because death will come from what is happening to them now, what is coming towards them. And so I can report to us that in that decommissioning phase, it is all about connecting with the people. Self-determination is a people's right. It's not something 10 people will go and do and deliver to you. You are the one who have to live in that freedom. You are the one who have to assert that self-determination. So that decommissioning is where sufficient numbers of people get to know that the life of that, the teeth of that lion has been removed, so that they can stand up and begin to do the things that will wake up other people, so that the critical mass of people who are defying, because it boils down to defying that constitution eventually, but a few people cannot go to defy it. And what I mean by defy is not the one anybody will come and shoot at you. It is just to say, look, Oga, how many, when we do our altar call and they see the numbers that already agree with us, we already have sufficient numbers that agree with us, but what we need to do to connect them to seeing that these are the things they now need to do to be counted. We're going to have something they will fill in their particulars. And we're going to be doing events that will eventually move from virtual to physical, so that the system will see. And there's no meeting we're going to call. All these people that have come to the public to say that constitution is the problem, whether it's Obasanjo or Emeka Anyuako or Mogalo or Utomi, and we could name 1,000 people like that. We could name 50,000 people in the next level. We could name millions of people who already are doing one thing or the other. But the day we say, let everybody come in this way or that way to be seen, of course, that is when they will see that the life of that constitution that empowered them has been taken away by these people who own the signature behind that life. That is what we need to do to advance that process to where it will become dismantling. Dismantling is the day they actually pack their bag and leave your space, except you invite them. After the decommissioning. The decommissioning is the point at which they are no longer able to draw power freely. Tell me who is going to tell you to go to election again now, and you begin to listen to him. People are going to beat them up. The people who are postponing revolution to 2027 so that they can drag people back to this constitution for another election. People are going to grab them on the street when they find out they were dishonest. Because they were dishonest. If they were in this meeting, I'm sure some of them are listening. They have been dishonest. How can you say the engine of a vehicle is knocked and you begin to load people who are running from death into that vehicle? Are you not a wicked man? Are you not the one that killed them if they got killed? The same goes to the church leaders, the shepherds. The sheep is dying now. All of you have your comfort. You are not the one suffering from lack of food. You are not the one running away from the country that is killing you. But you were the one that mobilized them to go and get PVC to revalidate the life of that constitution that should have gone down. If you played your part, you became Judas' goat that led them to slaughter. And you told us that you go where the sheep go. Shepherd. Shame.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bro Attorney. Shame, 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 shame. We cannot, because it's as if people are not seeing what our people are really going through. It will break any sincere person's heart if you have a clue of what these people. Meanwhile, Nigeria is supposed to be number 6 oil producing country in the world. They said not number 6, but I know it might be number 2 because they never give us right credits. Then the people are suffering. Thank you very much for breaking it down so well. So let's quickly go to the next question. Obviously, in response to the NINAS propositions and campaign, there are loud debates we hear all over Nigeria about what to do next, about the distressed constitution of Nigeria. You have touched some of them already, because we hear them talking about amendments to 1999 constitution. Some are saying, oh, writing a new constitution, let's just bring a new constitution, bring this one out and bring the other one. Many are shouting about the need for restructuring. Some are saying, oh, let's return to 1963 constitution. Others talk about adopting the reports of 2014 National Conference, the one we call CONFA. Young people are speaking loudly about revolution, while others are saying, let's take back our country. Just everything happening everywhere, everybody shouting one thing or the other. Can you please explain to us how NINA's constitutional reconfiguration proposition differ from these discordant tunes that we hear? Because the Nigerian public seems so confused about what is wrong about their country and what needs to be done. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very quickly, I will take them one after the other to tell you why NINAS.
Let's few minutes, please.
Yes. To tell you why NINAS rejects all these things that have been listed here. Those with any process of changing what is happening to us that will go to the National Assembly for amendment of Constitution. It means you are then telling me that my sovereignty that was yanked off from me by that fraud of 1999 now belongs to the members of National Assembly. So it's no longer the Yoruba that will go to negotiate with the Ijaw or the Berom for how they do union. It will be politicians whom you elected to go to make law. Their mandate is limited to law making. Constitution making is the exclusive preserve of the people, the peoples of the territory, the owners of the sovereignty, the people that could become countries of their own if Nigeria was not occupying their space. They are the ones who own the exclusive right to determine whether they want to be in union with anybody And if they say yes by referendum, on what terms? Therefore, they begin to document and codify those terms. That is what becomes a constitution. So if anybody is talking about changing what is happening to us, and he's still looking in the direction of National Assembly, such a person is ignorant and illiterate of what the issue is. So the ones that say, oh, restructuring, what is the meaning of restructuring? Restructuring simply, if you take a building, for instance, a 10-story building that is fractured from underneath, that will collapse by itself if you don't find a way to do something about it. You see that restructuring can mean, refurbishing it in some way or painting it in another way. It can also mean, it means it's a very woolly talk to have. But NINAS has put a specific meaning, and we adopted that meaning in the force majeure itself, because we addressed that communication to the president when he went to run his mouth, to the then president, Buhari, when he went to run his mouth in France, that the people talking about restructuring don't know what they are looking for, and therefore how to go about it to be done. And so in that meaning we put to it, we indicated that it's like it is pulling down the building that was there and constructing according to new architecture. What does that mean for the people lumped together here? The constitution that has grouped us into this unworkable arrangement, we say, can we put it aside, like South Africa put aside the apartheid constitution? Did they not have a parliament at the time? But it was beyond the remit, beyond the powers of parliament to begin to discuss sovereignty of the people that voted them to come and go and make law under constitution. And so it's not the talk of restructuring can only be according to what exactly you want to change and how you want to change it and the outcomes that could come from it. In the restructuring that NINAS put a meaning to, by the time it's finished, it's only a matter of degree of autonomy. It has a process for where you start. So you can put a date to when you have to start, how you can start it. It has outcomes that differ only in degree of autonomy. If most people want to remain in country because they have agreed to be, then it could be a federation. If most people say we want more autonomy than we used to have, it will be a confederation. If most people say on account of class or civilizations, we can't even be in union with people who are who owe it a duty of faith to kill us, the ones who adopted Sharia, that could also be an outcome in the process we have. So those three options are on the table: federation, confederation, or the emergence of independent units of successor states from the defunct Federation of Nigeria that died in 1966. And so that is where restructuring began to make meaning to NINAS. Anybody that is talking about restructuring loosely, the type Rufai went to do in APC, the type Buhari said he would do, the type Tinubu and Co have been saying they are champions of, it's of no interest to us. Going back to 1963, the ones who say let's go back to 1963. 1963 Constitution left the minorities in the belly of the majority. The middle belt will be in the belly of the caliphate because it was one northern region. The Tiv, the Berom, all these people being slaughtered now will have to go back to Sokoto for how they move in any direction. J.S. Tucker rejected it. The ones who are alive now will reject it even more. In the lower Niger territory, the eastern minorities, the Jaw, the Anang, the Efik, the Ogoni, wanted a region of their own in Willings Commission. They didn't give them. If you go back to 1963, they are back to Enugu. They won't accept that. They don't want that. There was something we described as incomplete colonization, incomplete decolonization. Incomplete decolonization. The British deliberately left the sovereignty of the minorities in the belly of the bigger ones. And so it was always going to be a problem that will enable them continue to milk Nigeria because everybody will be fighting everybody. Look at Niger Delta today. Look at the assets that belong to them. Look at what the rest of Nigeria is doing with it. If they were in charge of those assets, it won't be so, and they won't be so miserably poor or environment so terribly damaged. So that is what is wrong with going to 1963. The word of going to 2014 conference report, Jonathan convened that meeting for us to go to the foundation that was laid by the British in 1914, in 1960. The conferees, the delegates, decided that they will not go to the foundation. They formed this on the floor of that conference. They took that decision, and they formed their APC, blocking what Jonathan had mandated from happening, and chased Jonathan out, took power. We are not going to take the outcome from that conference that did not discuss the foundation or the basis of the union. NINAS will not touch one alphabet from it. Anybody who is telling you that that is an option, tell them that they do not know what they are saying. And so I think that's all about the options. The ones who are talking about a revolution to take back their country. Can't we define the revolution we are talking about? NINAS has been able to tell you what is wrong and what needs to change and how it can be changed and when it has to change. That 5-point proposition, go and look at it again, so you can see the details of how everything will have to be done, who will do it, when it has to be done, and how it has to be done. If you don't have all of that and you are shouting revolution, you can be at this for another 50 years. There will be no progress made. But if you embrace the one we have now, in 3 months, we can be out of this mess forever. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Someone, please remove the comments so that people will see the questions that we just took. And it was broken down step by step. If you go back to listen to the question again, you'll see that he took it line by line and has given response. Because why is important for our people to understand? We have these people at these criminals at National Assembly trying to swindle the people because of ignorance. So they bring up some of these questions one by one, this, so that you will be armed with the right response when they come to you, the people. The indigenous people, like somebody said, the people must rise. But you're not going to rise without information. If not, they will swindle you again. My people perish for lack of knowledge. And NINAS is here throwing light to the information that you need to arm yourself with as an indigenous person so that you will engage them properly. We're having conversation. We don't want to fight. We don't want to kill ourselves. There's no need to do that. But if you have the appropriate information, when they talk, you will shut down their argument, and eventually superior argument will take preeminence because idea rules the world. Not shouting, not noise, but idea rules the world. But you need to get the right idea, the proper idea. When you make proper diagnosis, you're going to have right treatment plan, and then you treat the patient properly, and then the patient will be okay. So I'll leave the stage for my sister. She probably has some questions, maybe one or two questions for Brother Tony. Thank you very much. Sister Mona, please, I yield the mic.
All right, yes, thank you. So in the interest of time, we'll go a little bit faster. So going by the contents of the report you just presented to us, please can you share with the public NINAS reading of the response of the government to Nigeria and to the propositions of NINAS, especially against the backdrop of the outcome of the 2023 general election, which NINAS vigorously campaigned against for the purpose of first undertaking the constitutional re-engineering of Nigeria?
Very quickly, the government is looking for happy and way. All those things we say we reject, those things we answered in question 4. They are looking towards the National Assembly as where it must happen. NINAS say National Assembly has no business with what we are talking about. Our sovereignty is not the business of National Assembly to undertake. Their mandate is limited to lawmaking and not constitution making. Any lawyer that doesn't know that probably did not do well in his jurisprudence exams. And it's a compulsory course. So I could actually say such lawyers are illiterate on the subject matter. It doesn't matter whether they were professors of law or they were senior advocates. And so the question of, government wanting to take the business to National Assembly so that they can control the outcome. the sovereignty of the people will remain detained. Any process that will go to National Assembly, whether they adopt the 2014 conference or they say, let's go to 1963, or they do the one Olisa Bakoba is asking them to go and write another constitution and use one of the sections to smuggle it in, remove the one that was there, bring another whole constitution without reference to the people. So any of all those options, totally unacceptable, will not solve the problem. But that's what the government have been struggling to do. You saw when on the day the Supreme Court was going to make that pronouncement, they brought the South and Middle Belt Leadership Forum that now began to write letter to President to say, let us now go to National Assembly and amend Constitution. The three candidates, leading candidates in the last election, their manifestos all pointed to the National Assembly, Peter Obi, Bola Tinubu, and Atiku Abubakar. Their manifestos of PDP and the APC and Labour Party pointed in writing to the National Assembly as where they will go to amend the Constitution. And so the government is trying to see whether any of those shenanigans will work. After we shut down the South and Middle Belt Leadership Forum, they went to the ones that say, oh, let's go to 1963. We shut it down by one broadcast. You remember, they went again to the one that said, let's go to 2014 conference. In one broadcast, we explained why we couldn't touch it. Then they went to the Bar Association. The Nigerian Bar Association put out some invitation 2 weeks or 3 ago to say, let all the lawyers in Nigeria come and bring a suggestion for what will change so that National Assembly can go and do it. Again, we didn't even have to respond to them because people now know that National Assembly is not the one to do it for them. So that one collapsed on their head. It was in the desperation of having lost out in all the options that they now called Olisa Bakoba to come to tell them what to do that will not require any kind of talking to anybody. So National Assembly will lock their door, go to Section 4, and change something that opens the avenue for them to write another constitution, which Olisa Bakoba has told us in public that he had written. Falana had written one. There's one Delegitimized and Co. say they wrote. So they are thinking that they can write constitution, take it to National Assembly, and smuggle it in to say, oh, they have changed constitution. So that is not a matter of writing another constitution. It's a matter of inviting the owners of the sovereignty to discuss whether they want to be in union or not. And we say it is a two-stage procedure that guarantees the outcome that protects everybody's sovereignty. Anything short of that, your sovereignty is gone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So sovereignty belongs to the people. Constitution is made by the constituents. So any other arrangement will not work out. So we are knowledgeable now. We are not selling our car in the market. So we know what we need. We know what needs to be done. So moving on to the next question. Going forward, so what is the message that NINAS have for our people who are now caught up in the disaster? Free falling economy, nothing is working, kidnapping everywhere. What hope or any hope that Nigeria situation can be arrested?
Excellent. What NINAS has, luckily, sovereignty belongs to the people. If we listen to Dati Baba Ahmed the day after they addressed the press from the Supreme Court pronouncement, he said that the hope for him and Peter, they have come to end of road. But for the rest of Nigeria, for Nigerians who own the sovereignty, it is within the exclusive rights of Nigeria, of the owners of sovereignty, to determine what will happen. They are the owners of the enterprise. The constitution is their memo and article. So even the next morning after the election, if they say the constitution is no longer serving them, they can throw it aside. The peoples of Nigeria hold the veto. They hold the veto over the constitution upon which the government and all the institutions rely, including the National Assembly, including the president, including 36 states and their governors. And so the hope that is here now is that if those who are living in this torment decide to end their torment, it is 100% within their reach to exercise their right to self-determination by vetoing the constitution that was imposed and taking back their sovereignty to rework into what will work for them. The government has no say or any kind of ability to impede them, provided they organize themselves to say, it is this constitution that we reject. Forget about party and who rig election. That's that's menial and too inconsequential to be discussing. It is the constitution that sees your sovereignty that we are talking about. And so the hope is that if our people wake up today, when we check the numbers that are now saying it to the hearing of the, because there's no other way to do it. If you leave it to NINAS and the small team you see from afar, the impression will continue to be maintained that you are happy with the constitution and what is dishing out to you.
Yep.
But if you join when we ask you to demonstrate that you are part of, you're on the side of let's end that document, we can begin to put dates for when things will happen. And I tell you, by the close of the first quarter, if our people stand up to play their part, we will be on the table discussing whether we are still in union or we've gone our ways. And if we're in the union, we'll be the ones writing down what will be written into any document that will become constitution. Those in government house will remain on a transitional basis until we finish whatever we're discussing. It took South Africa 5 years because nobody had done the kind of work we have done. In Nigeria, it shouldn't take us more than one year. In fact, 6 months will go a long way. If we add referendum period to ratify whatever we have agreed upon, we can then say 18 months at the most, because there will be campaigns, there will be all kinds of boundaries, and because it's not all these statistics that will be there. Those boundaries will go. Those charlatans that say they are governors of entities that were created to tie down their people, to ruin the lives of their people, and they're happy to swear to defend and uphold the constitution. Governor of Abia State. Were you there the day Abia was carved from wherever it should have been? That's what it is. There is hope if our people want salvation. They must stand up and take that sovereignty, because it belongs to them. Self-determination, it belongs to them. It's not something 2-3 people can do and go and deliver to millions of people.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that well thought out response. So we're going to move on to our special guest, Dr. Norom. Thank you so much for being patient. So like we mentioned earlier, he's an presidential aspirant on the ADC platform. So he's here as an independent witness as to what happened in that 2023 general election. He was kind enough to send out a video, a warning to us before the election that they need to shut down that presidential campaign because nothing will change for our people. And this is the thing that we talk about. When our people look out for our people, because we see other people there, they are up there in the food chain. We think they're representing us. Our brother came out, even when it was not convenient. I know he got a lot of, backlash about this, but he came out to say that this election is not going to work, that we need to adopt the NINAS strategy for transition to self-determination. And we can see that he's been vindicated, because the election was sham. Nothing came out of it. So please, welcome, sir. Welcome so much. So what made you conclude that another general election under this constitution is not the way to go, especially looking at the disastrous outcome of that electoral voyage? Please, what can you tell Nigerians at this point in time?
Thank you so much for having me and giving me this platform to reach probably people that I wouldn't have been able to have access to. Like you said, first of all, I'm not a member of the executive team of NINAS, but I'm a Nigerian. And NINAS speak for me as a Nigerian. I'm a leader, and to lead people, you have to lead people with a light, not blindfolded. And I think that is very, very important. NINAS, I think, let me just start by saying that what dragged me into politics. I'm not a politician. I'm an academic. I'm not a politician. But what brought me into politics was the sight of many Africans drowning while crossing into Europe. And I listened to various commentaries from highly placed individuals in Europe, European governments, and also listened to politicians from Nigeria and Africa. And what I observed immediately was that the politicians in Africa were silent. Nobody cared about how many people died. Nobody cared about nationalities. Even while Europeans themselves were crying over the dead bodies that littered the shores of Italy and a number of other places, our governments were silent. Our presidents were silent. Our lawmakers made no attempt at all, even to retrieve the body and to give them a befitting burial. So I made that decision on the belief that leadership was the issue. Unfortunately, as time progressed, and I came across various literature from NINAS, I began to, dive deeper into it. And the first thing I did was to assure myself that NINAS is not on the same platform as secessionist groups. I'm not saying that people do not have the right, of self-determination. But self-determination must be conducted legally. It must follow a due process. And so once I was convinced that NINAS was on a different platform, intellectually supported, and when I looked at the charisma of the secretary himself, and being a very prominent lawyer, very intelligent, I think I studied him over time. I made a decision that I was going to pay a little more, get a little more closer and get more information. And I think the area that struck me very, very hard was the emphasis on the Constitution as being the catalyst of all the evils we see in Nigeria today. I could remember that there was a quote I saw that captured my attention from Tony. I think he described the Constitution as Constitution of death. Excuse me. And sorry.
Please continue to help us to share, like, and subscribe.
It's a constitution of debt. I love that quote. So please, we should even hashtag that one, because when you are put in a pressure cooker for injustice, you know you will never make any progress. So we give our brother a few minutes to take care of an urgent matter, and then he will come back on. So as usual, continue to help us to share, hit that like button. It really does work continuously. If you can hit that button, you know they do not want our people to get information that they need. The knowledge is power, but we keep reminding you guys that it's going to be offline. What we are doing is eventually it's actually offline. This is just to reach the people that are not on ground. So thank you for joining us today on this special program. Thank you so much. Continue to share I hope you have your papers and you're writing down important informations, because we will conclude this journey. We will conclude this journey. The good thing about what we're doing is that we are not relenting. We are persistent. Anytime you come around, we're still saying the same thing. So that means that we are stamped in the truth. So if you want to join us, please, this is the good time. Christmas is around the corner. There is no need for us to continue to suffer. There is no need for us to continue to be in the condition that we find ourselves. So I think my brother is back. So we'll let him take over.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. My apologies. I mean, technology is one of those silly things. Just a phone call that came in disrupted every damn thing. All right. So the point I was making before the disruption was that uh, Tony is very good at communicating to people, those who wish to listen. I think that's very important. In very clear terms. And when he described the Constitution as the Constitution of death, I read the interpretation and understood that. When he described the Constitution as the Constitution that promotes master-servant relationship, I have lived over many years and I have seen what is going on in Nigeria, the level of discrimination, the kind of injustice that is in that country. And when he described it as retrogressive, particularly when it comes to the exclusive list, and I heard him loud and clear. And immediately I began to put all these things together. And the message was very clear. You're beginning to look at about 3 previous electoral cycles. And at each stage, you will expect something better. It doesn't happen. In fact, if you look at the history of administrative changes in Nigeria, what you realize that any incoming administration becomes worse than the one it replaced. And so this cycle has been there over time. And it was clear to me, that something has to be, done. I think that was where I made up my mind and said, look, this is going to be a complete wastage of time. Should I continue, my candidacy? I think finally, one other thing that made me to make that decision was that I've looked over time, and I've realized that in Nigerian politics, it's not about the quality that you bring in. No, not at all. It's about whether the cabals recognize you as a member of theirs or somebody they can use. That's very important. And secondly, you must have billions stolen to waste, because nobody can ever waste even $100 that he or she worked hard on. So you must have billions that you have accumulated over time, or your sponsors who may have also stolen part of that money from somewhere and are prepared to waste it. And I don't have that kind of money to come and waste. And the other thing is that no matter how capable, no matter how capable you are, and no matter the will of the people who are electing you, Nigeria has become a state in which the executives who eventually emerge as the leaders are not, come into existence by selection. To be honest, I must tell you, like somebody was telling me a couple of days ago, he said that Obi shouldn't waste his time, that 2027 or whatever it is, which is the next election, that the next leader has already been selected. To be honest, so how can you be in a system that continues to feed us with failure, endless failure? How can you continue to support that? It doesn't make sense at all. And so I think I made that decision that let me lead by example. And I was hoping that other politicians will follow. because this is not a matter of secession. This is not a matter of Igbo or Yoruba or Hausa or what. This is about Nigeria. This is about us. There is one part of Nigerian constitution, in fact, this crazy constitution 1999, that I keep reading from Tony's articles. I think it's section 14A. It says clearly that sovereignty belongs to the people from whom government, through this constitution, derive all its powers and authority. So that tells me then that anybody who writes a constitution and starts the preamble by saying that we, the people, having firmly and solemnly resolved to live in unity as one indivisible and indissoluble nation, do hereby make, enact, and give unto ourselves the following constitution, is a lie. So, in other words, the constitution, I mean, through Tony and NINAS, I came to realize that our constitution lied from beginning to the end. And so, when you have a document that is crafted based on lies, the implementation is also based on lies. It's not surprising that today the kind of politicians we see, we cannot measure them by their intellectual capabilities or their patriotism. It is simply because they were selected by a cabal to execute the interests of cabals. And I don't want to be part of it. I hope that answers the question. My apologies, because technology must have, has extended this a little bit beyond what I intended initially. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for that outstanding explanation. And we thank you so much. This is what a father would do for his children, to look out for their children, understand, and that good things has to be in place, or have to be in place for the children to have a sustainable future. So we thank you for that. Like you said, we can never move forward because they have already elected those waiting for 2027 for you to get into another car without engine, so you can go and have another horrible accident. This is how it begins, that we're saying that sovereignty belongs to the people. Let's do the right thing, and then we'll move on with election. Let's do the right things first, and then we'll move on to election. So I will switch gear, and I'll bring my sister Equi to take on and continue. We're almost done, people. Hang in there with us.
Yes, we're almost done. Thank you so much, Dr. Israel Noyarem Davison, for that fantastic outing. And Sister Mona, thank you. Can we go back to the view so that I can see the rest of the people, because we're having just one view. I think there's something we need to click. So we want to go to the section that talks about brief remarks by Nina's team. Yes, I don't know if network has thrown some of them off. We had Professor Bami, he was here, and I can't see him anymore. So, okay, I can see him now. Sorry, Professor Bami, can you hear me? Because we want to go to bring in our members of all the blocks. It's going to be brief, please. We know that people's data and all that, you know how it is back home for people to be online for some time. I know, but when they want to watch the church, data doesn't stop them. Meanwhile, this is the information you need to be alive. You're going where they're brainwashing you. You use your data and be there and be shouting amen, amen, when you're supposed to be working hard. So please, go to this section, brief remarks and exhortation by each member of the NINAS team on the imperative of joint action. We call it joint jailbreak. Why is it important for us to join hands together and get this work done? So Professor Bamiyi, I don't know if you can hear me. I will want you to come in before the network will start misbehaving. He's from Middle Belt, Middle Belt block.
Yes, I'm online. The network might throw me out any moment.
That's why I started to
right now I'm in.
Thank you,
yes,
sir.
I've been in and out because of network challenges. Thank you very much for having me. It's a privilege to be here this evening. A people united together in purpose can never be defeated. And We must remain resolute. We must remain focused if we are going to liberate ourselves from the current oppression that we found ourselves in, especially as a result of the 1999 Constitution of Debt. And that is a good description of the 1999 Constitution. It is a constitution of debt. It is a constitution of incapacitation. It is a constitution of retrogress. It is a constitution of darkness. And we must liberate ourselves completely from this constitution of debt. And NINAS has been working over the years to ensure the emancipation of our people from this bondage, this slavery that we found ourselves in as a result of the 1999 Constitution and as a result of the cabals that have taken Nigeria for a ride for many years now. Those of us from the Middle Belt, we've suffered a lot. We've suffered the death of loved ones, the death of friends, and I'm not even talking about maybe in the distant past. What I'm talking about is something that keeps happening every now and then, something that has happened even this week. So we've been having this oppression of our people by the Fulani herdsmen, for example, who seem to be above the law, who seem to be untouchable as far as the government of Nigeria, the defunct Nigeria is concerned, because what other people cannot do and get away with it, the Fulani herdsmen will do it. We see Fulani herdsmen in broad daylight carrying AK-47, and nobody stops them. Nobody says, why are you carrying a weapon? But our people will be stopped from carrying even knives. If you are caught with a knife on the street, you will be arrested. But a Fulani herdsman can carry an AK-47, wrap it around his shoulder, and move through the breadth and length of this country, Nigeria. So we're in a country where there is no equity, there is no justice, there is no fairness. Are we equal before the law in Nigeria? No, we are not. It looks as if in Nigeria, the law is a respecter of persons. It looks that in Nigeria, the law, the justice system is not blind. It sees and decides to favor certain people and go against certain people. And this is what we see happening. Our people are being oppressed. They cry day and night. They go to those who are supposed to be law enforcement agents, who are supposed to help them, and they end up being the victims. You know, they end up being oppressed. They end up being harassed. They end up being assaulted by law enforcement agencies. And sometimes you have these attacks by these gunmen when our people regroup and decide to counterattack. That's the time that the agencies of government, the military, will come around and stop them, and sometimes even bomb them, even kill them, that they have been violent, whereas they have just been attacked and lives have been lost. And they manage to regroup so that they can counterattack, so that they can defend themselves. But they are not even allowed to defend themselves. And this is very painful. We've lost loved ones, we've lost friends. I've lost even close friends to this menace, this chaos this anarchy, this pandemonium that we have in our nation, Nigeria, that we have in this entity that is called Nigeria, this contraption, or whatever it is, of the colonial masters that is Nigeria. So it is high time that we mobilize every one of our people, every one that belongs to our different ethnic nationalities, that look, the time has come for us to liberate ourselves. The time has come for us to free ourselves. The politicians will not do it for us because they are part of the problem. They're enjoying. The traditional rulers, bless their hearts, but they're not going to do it for us. The people have to come together and say, look, we reject this imposition. We were not part of the 1999 Constitution. Nobody consulted us. Nobody asked our views. And the Constitution came into being and says that we, the people of Nigeria, which Nigeria? A constitution that was imposed by the military, a constitution that we had no hand in, was imposed on us. And I tell you, give even an angel that constitution to govern Nigeria, he will find it very difficult, because the constitution is a bunch of contradictions. The constitution in itself is a problem. It is meant to favor a certain class, a certain part, of the entity called Nigeria against, other entities. So it is a problem. The constitution is a disaster. The constitution is a constitution of limitation, is a constitution of debt. And the earlier our people realize this and come together, so we can free ourselves, so we can liberate ourselves, for ourselves, for our children, for future generations, the better for us. Because if we continue to postpone the evil day, we keep thinking all things will get better. If we have maybe a nice, wonderful leader, just like we're deceived. In the last election, our people were deceived. They felt, let's bring in Peter Obi, we'll have a better country, for example. And in the middle belt, our people massively thought if they vote in Peter Obi, the entity called Nigeria will become a better place. But it was just a deception. The people knew right of the entity called Nigeria knew from the onset that they were not going to give power to any Peter Obi. Even if he wins by 100%, they were not ready to give him power. They knew from the onset that they were just deceiving the generality of Nigerians. And we've seen what a sham the election was. We've seen that the election was just complete deceit, and the eyes of our people are gradually opening to this deceit, and the people are disenfranchised. The people are frustrated. The people are looking for a way out. What is the way out? The way out is what we are doing in NINAS, to reject the imposition called the 1999 Constitution. And we thank God for the constitutional force majeure declared by NINAS 3 years ago, and the progress that we've made so far. And we must keep the pressure on. We must keep on the momentum. We must maintain the focus. We must continue to be resolute and resilient as the days come by, in the next days and weeks and months and years, until we fully and completely realized our objectives and our goals God helping us. And I like the way we're going about this, because we are not going to realize this by staying in our churches or mosques or wherever and just be praying and be shouting amen. No, God will not come down from heaven to liberate us. God has given us the power to liberate ourselves. God is not going to come down from heaven to make the lives of our people better. He has already given us the power. And we are free moral agents. We have the power, the capacity, the strength to decide our own destinies that has been given unto us. And we cannot blame anybody if we fail to liberate ourselves. We can only blame ourselves for remaining perpetually in bondage, in slavery. If we refuse to arise now and liberate ourselves and do something, we cannot even blame those who are handling this entity that is called Nigeria. We can only blame ourselves, because we have this golden opportunity in time, this golden opportunity in destiny to liberate ourselves, to free ourselves, to become ethnic nationalities that are liberated, that are free, that can determine our future, determine what we want, say what we want, do what we want, and the sky will not even be a limit for our people. So I thank you for this privilege to make a few statements. It's evening here in Jos Plateau State, Nigeria. We are maybe in different time zones. Those of you in different parts of the world, you are maybe morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever time it is. But I thank God for this privilege to make these few statements. And lastly, let me say this in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, that be the change that you want to see in the world. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Be the change that you want to see as far as the ethnic nationalities in Nigeria are concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Bami, for that wonderful remark. Honestly, there's nothing else to add. You have said it all. We are saying, let the distractions stop. Let those distracting us in one name or the other, religion, freedom fighting, or whatever. It's time to come together and be in this liberation train, NINAS liberation train, so that together we'll put down the 1999 Constitution, because sovereignty belongs to the people that are well informed, like Dr. Israel already told us, that for you to be part of this thing and function the way you should function, you need the information. So that's wonderful from Middle Belt Block. We want to go, I don't know if our mother, Folashade Olukoya is here. She's from Southwest Block. If she's not available, we'll go to the next block. Is she here? I don't know if our brother Mark Olise, he's from Lower Niger Block. I don't know if he's here so that he can give his own remark, because this must be a joint jail break.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you very much, my brother. Please go ahead. Few minutes, please. Thank you.
Hello. A Russian leader once said that there comes in a time in the life of a people when they decide, what kind of change that they want or what kind of change that they desire. The nature and how to proceed with it. That is the reality that befalls us today as a people. We want change, or we are fed up with the problems that befall us. But what kind of change do we want? How do we proceed? NINAS has done a wonderful job proceeding, from previous platforms, assuming previous appellations. I've done a fantastic job of trying to design, craft, and answer that question of what kind of change, what direction of change. and so on and so forth. We don't want a change that is scalar. We want a change that is vector. That is, we can measure, the changes, we can measure the impact, we can measure, the results. And on this premise, I want to talk about Agbakoba's intervention. Agbakoba's intervention is dubious. It's like a recipe for trading one dictatorship for another, or trading one sovereignty usurper for another, or trading one constitutional, aberration for another. How can anybody in his right senses even envision a transition for Nigeria that involves a group of people trying to usurp the dubious, let's say, the dubious authority that the military exhibited? Maybe enviously, they want to be the ones that will exercise such kind of imperfect and criminal sovereignty over the people of Nigeria. Why will he even think that we can replace what the military have done, or what this unpatriotic Abdul Salami and his cohorts have done? How can you think you can replace that with another set of people sitting down somewhere and drafting a constitution? What will make that constitution more legitimate than what Abdul Salami did? The question before Nigeria today is a sovereignty one. And the people want to take back their power. They didn't make their constitution the constitution lie that they made it. And even the constitution, after lying, acknowledged that power can only come from the people. And the people today are asking to exercise their power only for, some elitists, in the comfort of the Lagos, Lagos Island, and his romance with the incumbent president, be suggesting that they can go somewhere and redraft the constitution and impose it on the country. That is in fact, that is even a treasonous recommendation. And I think we should air this. It should be a very big news that the people, the owners of the country, are saying that the recommendation of Agbakoba, which of course had the applaud of Tinubu and the Senate President Akpabio, is condemnable and should be jettisoned. Agbakoba made his name, or came to national prominence, as the president of the Civil Liberties Organization. His activities, his commentary, and so on and so forth made him, the Agbakoba that we know today. Before that campaign against military rule, in which CLO became prominent, he was nobody. In fact, at least he was not in national recon. Then for somebody who, came to national recon through the pro-democracy movement to be advocating anti-democratic solutions and to refuse to recognize the sovereignty of the people in his recommendation, it's a very great disservice and unpatriotic, why would I put it, dent on his, reputation. And we must come out and shame him and people who are thinking like him. Then let's come back to the current president of the country, Tinubu. In fact, fine, we agree he was a senator, but Tinubu became the Tinubu that people know today during the battle against military rule, after the annulment of June 12th. And even after he became governor, he was still, pretending to be with the pro-democracy movement, advocating for a people's constitution, devolution of power, sovereignty belongs to the people and all other, principles. But the moment it became possible for him to align with the forces that be and carve a political niche for himself that will lead him to Aso Rock, he jettisoned all of this. We should be naming and shaming these people. And the president should be reminded that he cannot be canvassing for a sovereign national conference in the past, saying that the 1999 constitution, is an imposition, and only today, because it benefits him, he will shut up and be telling us that, there is no problem other than him trying to fix the economic whatever of subsidy, fuel subsidy, subsidy in electricity, subsidy in forex, and all other grammar and jargons that we hear today. The country must return back to this fundamental question of sovereignty and nationhood, and that is the few remarks I want to make.
Thank you very much for that wonderful remark. Mark Olise is from Lower Niger block, but he's directly from where we call Niger Delta, and because like we keep telling our people, when we mention Lower Niger, we're not saying Igbo or this, but every ethnic nation inside that block is part of what is going on. It's for organizational purposes, because we can't be shouting one thing and doing another thing. We have to be seen at the international level as being organized, because that's what is required by the 2007 United Nations Declaration for Indigenous Peoples' Rights. You must organize from the grassroots, then begin to come up. So our sister is here, our sister Otumba Shade Olukoya. She is from Southwest Block. So she's going to give us few remarks, because it's important for us to understand that joint break, we must hold hands together to break this jail. Joint jail break is important. We must hold hands. We are over 350 ethnic nations, but we must work together, because we're in the prison together and we work together to free ourselves. Not one person here, one person there. So Sister Otumba, our mother, our mommy, please go ahead. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. And I want to say a big thank you to my sisters from across the Niger for hosting this webinar or town hall or whatever they call it today. Thank you so much.
Press conference.
My remarks will be very few. The joint jailbreak is very, very important. Like you have said, we are over 350 groups, ethnic nationalities. And United Nations will not create a nation for each one, a country for each one of us. We have to do it together. And we even need the mass pull together to pull down this constitution, to make sure that that constitution is down. And to make it easier for us in the Southwest, our iconic leader, whatever may have been his faults, before he passed on, actually told us that if we want to liberate ourselves from the caliphate, we must join hands with Indigo. Initially I was wondering, even though I knew we had to join hands, but I didn't know Awolowo could ever say such a thing. But later we checked with a few of his lieutenants who were still alive, and they confirmed it. So why have you people not said it before? When I took Tony to them, why didn't you say it at that initial stage? When Tony went to see one of you with the CFR, why didn't you, Constitutional Force Major, why didn't you say it then? But anyway, the truth came out eventually, that we have been told, we have been instructed that it must be a joint jailbreak. Joint jailbreak is NINA's way of putting it. But what Awolowo said was exactly that. Like, join hands with them and liberate yourself. You cannot do it alone. Yeah, I always tell people when I found, I said, even Akitola, SLA Akitola tried it initially, but it didn't work because he wanted to join hands with the wrong people. He wanted to join hands with the caliphate. So instead of having a peaceful transition, we had the Wild Wild West that came up and that almost decapitated the whole country. But luckily, we are now back on safe grounds. We are in with all our southern brethren from the south, from the middle belt downwards. And I hope we will all stay together, hold hands tight, and get ourselves free from this terrible situation we are in. And then everybody will hold their sovereignties in their hands and go back and rebuild their respective nations. Thank you very much. And God will give us the grace to do it, to achieve what we want on our soil, on our ancestral soil. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We are not asking for anything that does not belong to us. We are asking for something that is our right and that we will conquer. So we keep reminding our people that we live in a state of Usman Dan Fodio, and until we come out of it. Our brother alluded to that when he mentioned you can't even be a president unless if they appointed you to be one. So even if you carry all your people and put them in a car with no engine, if you got it appointed, you just have your accident and they will keep it moving. So in order for us to get out of that Osman Dan Fodio's estate, we must endorse the NINAS strategy. We must go on with it. We have shown you guys our 5-point agenda for today. And these are the points that need to be taken care of in order for us to decide if you're going to recommit or opt out of that union, which will give our people the right to decide what they want through referendums. And last but not least, on our announcements, we are asking that people change their profile to NINAS is right. Transition for union reconfiguration. So these are the little things you can do from your neck of the wood to propagate this message. We are not asking you to bring money like your pastors are. We are not asking you to get ready for first fruit in January. We are asking you to take even the literal steps so that we can get to our destination. So thank you everyone for joining us. As usual, help us to share this information. We know that this job must be done. As mothers, we're not going anywhere. Our children are dying and we are here to make things right. So until next week, remain safe and be blessed. We shall return next week. Have a wonderful day, y'all. Bye.